Okay, at 6:30, I'll call the regular board meeting of the Ashland School District to order. As a public notification of meeting. If you will join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Jeff.
Here.
Dennis.
Present.
Brittany.
Here.
Bruce.
Present.
Nick.
Here.
Alyssa.
Present.
Kay is absent. She had contacted me, and Stacy is also absent. She had sent me a message, and myself is present. Motion to approve the agenda as printed.
A move. Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nick to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Public comment. Is there anybody registered for public comment? Okay. There's two acknowledgements. A donation for school meals from Bruce and Deborah Wadman. And donation for intellectually challenged Wisconsin State Council Knights of Columbus. We thank them both for that. Next up, consent agenda, certified staff and student matters, accept letters of resignation, retirement, certified staff members, authorization to hire social studies teacher, approve financial membership audit proposal, June 2026 through 2028, authorization to add signers by Mark credit union accounts, and approve early college credit program start college new applications, and the payment of vouchers October to November 2025.
We just didn't check here. The social studies one does not need to be approved tonight.
The hire or
The hire, correct. The resignation needs to be accepted, but the hire, as of this morning.
So remove the authorization to hire social studies teacher.
Yes.
Let that, and then where are we going with this? Are all of these going to be part of the consent agenda as well?
Yes, that's the motion for all of those.
Because then go on to page 2 for the motion to accept the consent agenda. And then it's listed here. I guess you broke it down as that. Just wanted to make sure that we're making two different motions here. So, do you want to just touch on the applications for early college?
Yeah, so we have 22 applicants currently for early college credit program, which is something that we do allow under policy. And so this is a great program, great benefit. Our students are able to take post-secondary education while still being a high school student. So these are students that are still eligible students. They do take advantage of the college courses. There is a cost to the district, and that would be based on whatever the tuition is for those students. Anything else that you would add to that, or?
No.
These are courses that are not offered at.
They're college credit courses.
College
Right,
credit
they're not
courses.
full credit courses that are
Correct.
offered here.
Yeah.
Right,
So the kids couldn't get it that way.
Right.
correct.
What is that cost to the district?
Well, it depends on the credits.
Okay. Go further.
Right. We get bills from Marine Park, we get bills from UW's, anywhere from $256 per credit. Roughly, this is the cost, and we each take a couple of credits every year. So it can be, we probably have about $15,000 budgeted in this current year, college credits for kids.
Ballpark for the 22 students, what's that cost?
I'm not sure.
We can get that, we'll,
Look at that.
we'll send that out.
And who teaches those credit hours?
College professors.
University
Yeah.
professors.
Okay.
So these kids would be going to Marine Park or do it virtually for an online class, so it's not offered here.
The difference is they're straight college courses as
Yes.
opposed to a dual credit where they're getting a high school course but getting applicable credits at the collegiate level. That's the difference between these two.
Okay. I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. We got the letter of resignation, Neil Fulton, social studies teacher. Resignation of Luke Steffen, technology education teacher. Authorization to hire Stephen Bergson, social studies.
That's what I'm cool.
Okay, that's the only cool. Okay. Then the accept the financial membership audit proposal submitted by Erickson and Associates. And then authorize the adding of signers, Molly Mack, Ted Rico, and Kim Puzzle, numerous accounts. Approve the 22 applications for the early college, and then the credit payment of vouchers. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Let the so noted change.
Just so noted, yes.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. Is there any other discussion?
Laura, are those audit numbers in line with what they have been in the past?
Yes, they increased a little bit, not much, and they are about $4,000 less than the competing auditors. And, I had a discussion with Todd about getting an RFP and bidding it out. Typically try to do this every 3 years, but with me leaving this current school year and Molly taking over, I felt it was really important that we keep our current auditors because they have a history of our expenses. They live in the district. They know about the referendum that we've not had success with and the one we're trying to do. And it would just be a good transition. So next year, or not next year, but when this is up in 3 years, that would be the next opportunity that you guys would have to go out for a bid. And then I would suggest that you do it just to stay competitive.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Motion carries. Support staff matters. Acknowledge acceptance of letters of resignation, retirement, support staff members. The board acknowledges per board policy 4140 termination resignation that district administrator Pat Rico accepted the resignation letter received October 30th, 2025, submitted by Katie Gomez, special education paraprofessional, effective November 12th, 2025, as presented. And also a letter of resignation submitted by Megan Ewan, cashier, and acknowledgement of hire, Molly Mack, our new bookkeeper. And then we have hire for Caitlin Shadow as a part-time special education paraprofessional. I'm sure I mispronounced a number of names there, but would it be out of line to put Molly on the spot and just have her introduce herself to the board?
No. Hi, I'm Molly.
There you go.
Molly's been, she's now just a week old, so this is starting her second week. Thank you for coming back for your second week. Molly's been doing a great job. Obviously, she's our new bookkeeper that's going to be taking over for Laura when Laura officially retires here. That day is getting closer and closer every day, but Laura's been doing a great job of supporting Molly and helping to get her the training that she needs. And so we're very thankful for that, and also thankful for Molly joining our team. She seems like a really good fit. She's doing a great job. Just in the first week, she's been sponging up all the knowledge that Laura has been presenting to her. So, well done.
Well, welcome to Dodge.
Thanks.
We won't grill you for the hobbies and that kind of stuff. Okay, up next, looks like approve the minutes from the following meetings. Finance Committee meeting, October 27th, regular board meeting, October 27th, Building and Grounds Committee meeting, November 10th, and special board meeting, November 13th.
Make a motion to approve the meeting with the following addition. That the public statement made about myself accepting the position and not expecting any financial reimbursement for that per our policy 0144-1. I believe that should be in the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Dennis, second by Bruce, to approve the minutes as amended. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Up next, we have information. Academic catalog.
I was new to the position last year. My name is Kelly. I am the math teacher and academic pickup advisor at school. Last year when we had a field trip, I didn't realize that I could present to you guys, so I kind of just gave it to Jessica at the time. So I like to be a little bit more professional. So, because it is kind of a big deal. Probably gave you the wrong side, but so probably flip it over. I'm presenting going for our overnight field trip for academic academy. It's for 13 students, 1 staff, and 2 chaperones. The team registration is $536. And then in the past, we've always covered meals for the students, not all of them, obviously, hotel rooms. And then last year, I introduced with the field trip more of a team building and more of addition of seeing something else and having an educational part to it before the actual testing happens the next day. So the first day is kind of fun and team building day and taking our online test at a different location. We could do it here, but it kind of takes away from the fact that we made it to regionals. It's kind of a big deal. So then last year we went to a really neat library, Kakana, that was a historical place, so I tried to find a different library to go to. So we're heading to the Heartland Library to take our test online. I put that already. And then we'll leave on January 8th, do all those things that are on the itinerary. And then January 9th is the actual part where we're at the Waukesha County Technical College, where they do their speeches and their interviews for the final parts of the 10 events for academic catalog. This year we're not our 2 bands. Last year was a little bit of a snafu. We had to leave early to return them so we didn't get charged. So I found parent volunteers that are already cleared by Laura. Thank you. And any questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to see this program continue.
Yeah, it's a really good program. I really loved it. I was kind of glad when Ms. Shealy asked me if I wanted to do it because I like doing extra stuff besides just being a teacher in the classroom. So, and these kids really get into it too. So
Good, thank you. Athletic director report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Luke Thompson, Athletic Director. I'm just kind of going to give a little report on our athletics in the district. We just finished up our winter sports about 3 weeks ago. For football, we had 4 players that made the all-conference team. Dylan Noble was an honorable mention offensive lineman. Noah Cohen was honorable mention inside linebacker and punter. Evan Falesnick was honorable mention defensive line, as well as Chris Benitez Meza was honorable mention special teams, as well as captain sportsmanship. He was nominated for the sportsmanship team for the conference. For volleyball, we also had 4 players, athletes that made the Troy's East all-conference team. Haley Mueller was a unanimous selection for the first team. Izzy Justin was selected to the second team. Alexis Bing was honorable mention, as well as Alex Nails was nominated for the sportsmanship team as well. For cross country, we had 2 runners that qualified for the state cross country meet. That was in Wisconsin Rapids. At the state cross country meet, Brooklyn Borchardt placed 20th place, as well as Delaney Reinhardt placed 5th place in the Division III race. Winter sports are just kind of started. Middle school boys started about a month ago, and they are about halfway through their season. Varsity girls basketball, they're currently 2-0 right now. They started about 2.5 weeks ago. Our home opener is actually tomorrow against CWC. Varsity boys, their first game is this Friday against Delvin Darien in Wisconsin Dells. And then wrestling started last week as well, and their first match is in Oakville on December 2nd. So we'll run down for athletics. Do we have any questions on athletics?
So you're new to the position.
Yes.
How do you feel the transition has gone so far?
I'm learning a ton. I feel like it's going pretty good. Learning a bunch. I have a couple of directors, and one's in a former district that I was employed at, and one's in Horicon, Michael Booten. He's kind of texting back and forth if I ever have any questions on anything. So it's going good. You know, it feels like I got something going on pretty much all the time now. So, but it's good.
Good.
I'm enjoying it.
Glad to hear that you get the support.
Yes.
Or persons you can reach out to.
Yep. And Don's been a lot of support as well throughout the time as well. And everybody around, a lot of people around the district have been all very supportive, so I'm really happy about that. So
Good.
really glad about that.
As a volleyball coach, I definitely enjoyed having him as an athletic director too. So he did a really good job during the season.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, student representative Abby.
Okay. We had our Veterans Day not that long ago. It went really good. Student Council made veterans and their families a breakfast prior to the assembly. And then during the assembly, we had our flag folding by FFA. Our 5th graders read their own poems that they made. The band and choir performed their songs, and the middle schoolers read kind of famous poems about Veterans Day. And then we had a guest speaker, Matt Bartle. He provided us with a lot of inspiring words and stories. And then something new that we have is called the Talking Trojans podcast. I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook or not. It's led by our business leadership class. So it's a bi-weekly podcast run by our high school students to discuss what's going on around our school. So each different group kind of takes a different part in the role of the video. And we've kind of recently added like a guest speaker, kind of what they're a part of, and kind of shines light on different aspects of school. Our extracurriculars, we had some amazing students from our extracurricular programs attend fall leadership conferences. FBLA and FFA went to Chula Vista and the Dells, hosted travel to UW-Madison, Skills USA attended their conference in Stevens Point, and each group of students heard from valuable professionals in their field and gained knowledge related to their interests. They also attended workshops where they were able to connect with different students from various schools around Wisconsin and learned about different areas in like business, agriculture, healthcare, and industry, depending which extracurricular they were in. Our students have some concerts coming up where they will be performing the work they've been working on. Our elementary students, K through 2, have their concert on December 9th. Our 3rd through 5th graders have their concert on December 10th. And then our middle school and high school band and choir have their concert on December 11th. For our FBLA middle school extracurricular fair, this was something new. So 2 of our high school students, Savannah Bugles and Andy Kelly, created an extracurricular fair for our middle school students. They started out by presenting a slideshow to them about career exploration, and then they visited 16 booths where our high school students set up their extracurricular activities and talked to the middle schoolers, so they kind of gained insight on what they could participate in as they enter high school. It was a great way for our extracurriculars to gain membership from our young students.
Is there any questions for Abby? So how many views or likes did it have on the
You know, I really don't know. I haven't checked, but I know it's something new. That's why we kind of wanted to start it, because it was a new, I mean, we don't do videos very often, so our class was like, I think Mr. Modoc brought it up or something. Yeah. Yeah, and then we kind of just took it over in our class, like, each group takes a different role, and we switch it up each week, so. Yeah. So,
Good deal.
yeah.
Today's already got 262 views. Going viral.
At what point do we start earning money on that?
We can look at it.
I'm going to start working with products, so.
Merch.
Good. Okay, so Bruce, do you have anything for CISA?
I do not.
And then we got the spring school board election 2026 filing deadlines on candidacy papers Friday, December 26, 5 p.m. Declaration of candidacy papers Tuesday, January 6 at 5 p.m. And just a reminder, the district office will be closed the following dates for the holidays, December 24th and 25th, the 31st and January 1st. Up next is financial report.
I'll give the same report that I gave to the finance committee a little earlier today. We are 25% of the way through our school year. We have our expenses with our general fund and our fund 10, we're at 18% spending. Our fund 27, which is our special education fund, was at 19, and fund 10 was at 18. Our debt service, we are at 18%. Our capital improvement plan fund, we're at 100%. So any changes that we might make moving forward throughout the school year, we'll have eventually a budget revision. Our fund 50, we are 23% of the way through the school year, and our community service fund, we are 17% of the way through with our expenses for the current year. And then just a financial update, we started the beginning of October with our manual checking account at $99,997.13, and we had an ending fund balance in that one of $165,752.43. Our commercial account, we have a negative beginning balance of $7,328, and we ended that one in October with $25,162.53. And then a local government investment pool, which is our savings, we had $412,450.13 in our general fund. Our debt service fund, $108,013.17, and our capital improvement project fund, which is our fund 46, $933,125.80.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Laura? Okay, administrative reports.
All right, I think we'll just get into our school report card. And we, as you know, the school report cards came out here in the last couple of weeks. And so we wanted to give you some updates on where we're at with regard to our school report card for this school year. So, kind of start things off. Oops. There we go.
Every year since 2011-12, Wisconsin produces report cards for schools and districts. Similar to the purpose of student report cards, these report cards help districts understand performance to improve opportunities for kids. It also helps families, educators, and communities understand how their schools are doing. Each report card looks at multiple years of data across 4 key areas, like achievement, growth, progress of students in need, or students with the lowest academic performance, attendance, and graduation rates. Based on these data, schools are given 1 of 5 overall ratings. From fails to meet expectations, significantly exceeds expectations. But things have changed over time. Since report cards began in 2011, Wisconsin has improved how we measure school performance. Schools with more low-income students are measured differently. Student growth matters more. Academic progress is tracked neatly, and absenteeism has a bigger impact. Using the old report card performance benchmarks is like using a GPS with 10-year-old information. The roads have changed. If we don't update the map, we might end up on the wrong path to our destination. That's why this summer, over 24 education leaders from across Wisconsin are coming together to update the thresholds for each rated category. They will review available data and recommend updates to the system. With guidance from national experts, this standard-setting process ensures school ratings reflect today's expectations, not yesterday's. It's all about making sure Wisconsin report cards are consistent, clear, fair, and based on how schools are truly performing today. Learn more at dpi.wi.gov.
So, as you can kind of see, the report cards are essentially calculated using an algorithm that's not necessarily, it's consistently applied across all districts, but there are various weights that are found within each report card, which is variable per district. So, we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. There's data on multiple years. You have student achievement, student growth, on-track and post-secondary education readiness, and target group outcomes. So on-track to graduation and target group outcomes account for 50% of the overall score, and then the others, student growth and student achievement, are broken down differently, and we'll get into that as we go. So this is kind of how things sort of begin. Students start this year. If they start in this year's target group, they kind of move over. So if they're in our target group, this kind of shows you how its overall calculation is done. It's a very complex process. We're not going to go into great detail about how that's done, but the big thing I think to take away is that if our subgroup, which is our target group, which is counts for 25% of our overall score, and it's our lowest quartile of students. So every single year we will have a lowest quartile of students, because even if students grow, we still will be left with a quartile of students that are lowest performing. It doesn't matter how high they perform, we'll always be required to have a lower quartile, right? So if there's a school that has everyone achieving at a proficient level, there would be a lower quartile, if that makes sense. And that particular group of students accounts for some impact in each of the categories, which is kind of the big thing to take away. So we have a value-added calculation. Really, it's done over 3 years. So the achievement and growth scores are calculated over 3 years worth of data. This year, however, for 1 year only, because the DPI changed the scoring metric last school year, so we are only comparing against last school year. So we have the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year, which are being compared to each other. Previously, so last year at the same time, you would have been comparing against the trailing 3 years, and next year at this time, we will compare against the trailing 3 years. But because the DPI scoring metric adjusted slightly, we're only comparing against 2 years. Report cards are scored using multiple non-assessment measures. Attendance, chronic absenteeism, and graduation factor into it. Report cards also, of course, of program data, third grade reading, certain state and local law violations. Those are things that are not scored in the data. So certain crime statistics and things like that would be required to be reported, but they don't impact our report card score per se. And again, we talked about the multiple years. So here we just wanted to kind of show those priority scores are weighted based on data availability. Those are the overall groups that are calculated: achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track for graduation. And this is buried or embedded, I should say, right into state law. And that's how these calculations are done. And so higher percentage of economically disadvantaged students have a greater impact across the board. And obviously we know that we can have a high number of students that are economically disadvantaged. So some limitations just to keep in mind as we go through this data. School sizes, district sizes, configurations impact scored elements. And so it's important not to just look at a straight comparison against district. I would caution you against that. Community members certainly would look at that, parents can look at that, everyone looks at that, but I would caution you against doing that because the weights are different in each school district. And so it certainly could come back that one school is achieving at a higher level, but they don't have as high a growth. The next school might have a higher growth. For us here in Dodgeland, a good portion, the majority of our score, the largest portion of our score is made up in growth, not just achievement scores. And so it becomes very difficult to compare district to district, school to school, those kinds of things. They're backward facing, so they reflect typically the last 3 years, but as I said, this one in particular is the last 2 years. And along with the annual snapshot of districts, use other internal performance metrics that help us to support instruction and student performance. We have internal benchmarks we're using to determine instructional performance and what we need to do to help support our students. So this is an example of some new standard setting with this year's report card. You'll notice that the scores last year, here on the left column, or the middle column, I should say, right here, as I'm circling that. This is the new scores that were just released this summer. You'll notice that each of the categories bumped up. The meets expectation category bumped up 2 points. All the other categories bumped up 1 point. So kind of increasing a little bit of the rigorous standards that exist to achieve that next level. This is year-over-year comparability. Obviously, I know it's very difficult to read, and I can share this out with everybody at a later time. But just kind of getting a general sense. If you see over here it's in red, that means it's not comparable. If it's in green, it is comparable. So there is a smattering of things that are comparable against last year's report card. Just for if you're looking at Dodgeland, comparing Dodgeland to Dodgeland, there are some things that we can't compare, but there is also quite a few things on that list that we are unable to compare. So focusing on continuous improvement, planning, and achievement priority area component overall scores between the two report cards. We want to be careful about doing that, but we can certainly look at some things, and we'll do that here today. So with that, I will turn it over to the principals, and they'll kind of explain their overall scores for their respective schools.
All right, so at the elementary level, we look at this as our staff to make plans for the future. And so one of the things to remember is that one of the grades that was tested this last school year is no longer with us because they went to Mr. Kishaw. So we can use this information then to help us with our 4th and 5th graders, but keeping in mind that every year we test 3 grades, but only 2 of them get to stay with us for the next school year. So our overall score was 67.4, and this dropped slightly from last school year. The priority weights, so it's just like having a weighted grade in a high school course, that changed also, which is why Mr. Greco said it's hard to compare year to year, because last year the achievement slice on the pie chart was smaller than it is this year, and the growth area was larger. The bottom 2, the on track to graduation and target group, that stays exactly the same. All right. This is a graph of the last 2 years. Like Mr. Greco said, we can't compare to the 3rd year. And we had quite a few more students taking the test this last school year than the year before. And so we have some some increases in the ELA side in the developing and the approaching areas, and we had a slight decrease in our advanced groups, which is somewhat what's going to affect that overall achievement score at the end of the day. Math has been historically, since we have implemented the Bridges curriculum at elementary, has been steadily increasing for years, and so that there's not a huge change in that part, and that continues to happen at our school. This is the achievement area, and overall our achievement scores, and the top line is how our Dodgeland kids did overall for the 4th and 5th graders for each subject, and the bottom line is the state average for each of those areas. What is really important to note is that this score, the overall score that we have, 65.8, is slightly higher than last year, but it only counts as 10% of the overall score. So while the achievement is going up, it doesn't weigh enough to really make a significant difference. Our ELA achievement went up from last year, but they did not keep pace with the state. So the state average went up higher than ours went up. So we're still slightly below that as well. And then math went up as well from last school year, but again, not at the same pace as the state average rose. This is the area that counts the most on our overall score, and this area here is lower than last year by about 7 points, which is why it's difficult to be able to compare year to year. However, our growth in ELA is above the state average, and our math achievement has been rising, but the growth is not. But they're starting higher, right? So then there's less room to grow. So that's part of what happens when you're only looking at growth. So if you're already starting with higher skills, then there's not as much space. If you're starting with lower skills, there's a lot more room for you to grow. And then this priority area here is kind of looking at the target students. So when Mr. Greco was talking about the target students that are in the bottom quartile of our student body, this ends up being current 4th and 5th grade students, and then they get counted again. So they're counted in the growth amount, they're counted in the achievement amount, and then they're counted again as its own growth, or on its own group, as 25% of the overall score, based on what is their achievement as a group, what is for math and reading, and then also what is their growth for math and reading. So when you look at this particular measure, you can see that in mathematics, their growth outpaced the non-target group. So they had higher growth than the students that were in the upper 3 quartiles. Right, 70%.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through all of that same exact stuff, but with 2 more schools. So Jenny and Todd have done a great job kind of setting us up for all that. So we'll start with the middle school, and as you can see, we're happy to announce again that Dodgeland Middle School exceeds expectations. Our overall score did drop just slightly this year, but as you've heard now a couple times, it's because of the way that the calculations happen. So you'll see on that pie chart on the right, our achievement went up. Last year was about 9.7, and then our growth decreased slightly, about 5 points. So you can see that that changed a little bit, and that on track for graduation and the priority group stayed 50% the whole time. As we dig into this a little bit more, as you can see here, generally speaking, it looks very similar year to year, but there's going to be a few slight differences in our ELA area. You'll see that our advanced group did get slightly smaller by also about half the amount of kids in that section. Our meeting group got that a larger increase, you can see there too. Mathematics, very, very comparable. The only thing that you'll notice in the parentheses is the number of students at each one of those levels, so our numbers did go down slightly, but not a ton. When we start talking about our achievement at the middle school level, you can see that everything is very well in line with our state averages. So when we look at the achievement for ELA, almost right there, just slightly below the state average there for that. In mathematics, we do exceed in the mathematics area, which is fantastic. Our math teachers do a really great job. With that, all of our teachers do. You can see that there's really some good growth happening there. And then as we go across to the growth side of things, we are right in line with ELA, exactly in line with the state average. And then again, you can see our mathematic growth significantly exceeded the state average there. So a lot to be proud of on this slide here. As Jenny kind of mentioned too, this priority area, this is 25% of our scorecard here. At the top, you can see that the school is the same or higher than 51, almost 52% of schools in our state, which is something to be really proud of as well. And as we look at this target group, you'll see that our achievement and in mathematics and ELA on that left-hand side, and then our growth. You can see the growth in ELA was higher than our non-target students, which is incredible there as well. And math just slightly below, but still a very, very good thing to see when we get to that point. Now we'll talk about the high school again. Third time you're hearing the same set of data, just compared to different buildings within our district. So we stayed in the meets expectations area. Dropped down 1 point overall, but again, as you saw in one of those other slides earlier, that they added points in some categories, took points away, and then our weights all changed. So you can see that our achievement area got larger and our growth got smaller here again too. Last year our growth was 36, we got about 3 percentage points there. You will notice that our on-track to graduation is a little bit smaller in this group, and I'll kind of get into that with some more information towards the end. Similarly to the middle school, again, our stuff, a lot of it stayed pretty linear across, but as you can see, numbers-wise, we got a little bit smaller, but generally speaking, all of these categories stayed pretty much the same. What's good to note, though, is in mathematics, that our median got larger, so we're closing that gap on the approaching area, which is really cool. So it's kind of hard to see up there, but when you look up a little closer, we like to see that, and in all of these. Again, the overall achievement, so ELA just approaching that state average, and mathematics slightly below, but still nothing to be of shock or concern there, but we like to be within that range there. And then our growth area again too, in our ELA area, slightly below the state average, math slightly a little bit farther below in that growth, but overall still very good. And then when it comes to, priority, and then I got one more slide. So priority again, this is at 25%, the lowest 25%, you can see the achievement on that side, and then the growth, which again is really something to be proud of, is that target group for ELA right in line with our non-target students, and our math is significantly higher than our non-target students, which we love to see that as well. And then the last slide, because the high school does have a few extra things that either the elementary or the middle school do not have. We all talk about chronic absenteeism, and these numbers are a little bit confusing because the higher the number, the better for chronic absenteeism. You think that the higher number means that there's more kids chronically absent, but that's not how it works. You want to have a higher number. So we're higher than the state average for chronic absenteeism, which means we have fewer students that are missing a significant number of school days, which is really awesome. In terms of our graduation rate, we're right in line with the state average. The hard part when it comes to calculating something like that is that one student might mean 9%, 8% right there. And historically speaking, we probably have like one student, at least since I've been here, I think it's been one student a year that has dropped out. So that affects us on there. And then some other things that get reported onto the state report card but don't count towards any of the score, but are on there because they're important to our students and they're important to help our students be well-rounded and learn, is post-secondary preparation. So we talk about our advanced courses. We're well above the state average of students that are taking advanced courses, so that's our AP dual credit courses. Our dual enrollment here is next, again, above the state average. We work really hard for that. This number is wrong on the state report card. It says industry recognized credentials. There's a data reporting error that shows 0% received industry recognized credentials. That's not correct. I don't know what the percentage is exactly. We're probably below the state average, but that's because this would involve like certificate programs that students can get while they're enrolled in high school. And then work-based learning, slightly below the state average, but that number's getting bigger. And then last on here is the participation in our arts courses, which when we look at these percentages are really, really awesome. So art and design, nearly 38% of our students are taking some sort of art or design class, which is fantastic. And you see the art and the things happening around our schools that we're very proud of. We don't have a dance or theater program, so those numbers don't mean anything to us on here. But music, when we look at nearly 20% of our students are taking some sort of music class, that's pretty awesome. So a lot to be proud of on this slide and all the slides for all three of our schools for sure.
All right, and that is the conclusion of our report card presentation. So I'll entertain any questions that anybody has. Certainly a lot of things there that we can be proud of. Growth, obviously you're hearing that, we're focusing on the right things, and in some areas that we certainly can look to improve upon as well, and continue to focus on those things. But all in all, I think this was a positive report card for us.
I just find it ironic that the state would produce something like a report card that wants you to compare district to district, yet you can't compare them because they're different numbers. So it makes zero sense to actually just great job on the achievement scores and things.
Got a lot to be proud of here.
Yes.
Yep. But you nailed it.
I mean, you can't even compare last year to this year at the same school because the numbers are what's weighted. So
Yes.
it makes no sense, but unfortunately the public also doesn't understand.
Person what's published in the paper, just write
Yeah,
all
why
the
not?
schools, no?
Yep.
Okay. No other questions? District newsletter.
So, obviously we had our survey that went out through school perceptions, and one of the things that kind of was eliminated through that process was the desire for the larger community to have a print copy newsletter. And so one of the things that we would like to do is present that newsletter here probably within the next couple of weeks, send that out to the larger community, and then do that again probably in March is sort of the plan. So we would send it out twice here this year, trying to essentially, we asked for feedback from the community gave us that feedback, and trying to honor some of the things, because there may be some things in the survey that we may not be able to do, but at the same time, there are some things that maybe we can hear them on and we want to honor that. So with that, we'll put that newsletter out here over the next couple of weeks, looking at some of our past survey, or some of our past newsletter information and the cost with that. We use leader printing, and obviously we have the printing information and cost from our most recent survey that we put out to the community. So we're looking at a cost of probably right around $5,000 or so is kind of what we're estimating to put that out.
Has there been any thought of putting something out to the public for businesses for sponsorship of the newsletter? Maybe, put a little ad in the newsletter saying this is sponsored by such a company or person or.
That is not something that we've done currently, but certainly something we could do.
Because $5,000 is a lot of money for newsletters, although we heard from the public that's what they would like. But we could.
Is this getting mailed to every household in the district?
One of the things we looked at or considered was trying to maybe not do that for our students, but then holding back and having hard copy newsletters for any parents that might want that, right? So, but then you would obviously, as a parent, would be able to receive our electronic newsletter, or you go on the website, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, it's kind of, I think, cost prohibitive to do that because it just gets sent to
Dennis?
If I may, the survey said printed, okay? So I looked at about 3 papers this last week, and there were articles about the school district. From Waterloo to Cambria, going out to Mayville, different papers, local papers, that described the report card, described what the board had. So is that a better venue? I understand the newsletter, but the survey is printed. People want to read what's going on in the school. And if you look at those local newspapers, it had all that information that we're trying to dial up and put in a separate newsletter. The information was there. I didn't know if we compared costs, we compared time, energy around it. But I understand, like I said, we say printed. I'm not 100% sure that a separate newsletter going out every quarter is what we need to do. The idea is to get the information to the group of people who want to read a printed format as opposed to an iPad.
Yes.
So I just think something we should look at as a district for a better venue or a better way to get it out there.
Is that one of Pioneer?
Yeah, one of them is Pioneer. Yeah. Then I forgot the one is that covers Cambria, Waterloo, Lake Mills. It's a local paper. So there's an opportunity for us to get what's going on here out there. That might not take as much energy from your staff.
Some of that seems like it would be at the whim of whether, I think this last week with the report cards hitting the news space and media wanting to latch onto that and sending a lot of that out, I think creates maybe a juicier local story. Then I don't know how it would work, though it doesn't hurt to ask some of them, but I know from even just a professional standpoint, we used to be able to send photographs of events that were happening with my work, and you could count on that going into the paper. And within the last couple of years, most of the time, whatever we send in does not get published because it's taking up a spot that they had a story that they already wanted in. So I think the hard part is we have less control over the narrative when the newspaper is control of what's being published, how it's being published, and when it's being published, versus our newsletter being able to tell our story the way we know our story, and controlling how we get that story out to the public in a way that represents the goal, right? And I think that in a partnership with the newspaper, publicity is one thing, but I don't think that publicity in media and newspaper is the exact same thing as information coming directly from the school.
Jeff?
I think the other concern is the local papers have gotten so expensive, many people have discontinued their subscriptions to the local papers. And I think we should use that as a supplement, but I still feel that the newsletter going to everyone so that gets to their door is the best way to get that information to people. And supplement it with whatever press releases we can do, but you're taking a chance whether we're going to put it in or not.
Well, you can always get a paid spot, then they don't choose, right? That's what I'm referring to.
That's true.
But secondly, if you look at the Pioneer, it has far more than just what happened at the board. We talk about excitement in our school district. It has pictures, it has the scores of their basketball game, it has everything that's happening in the school, not just the report card or what happens here, but it generates, hey, this is what's happening here. Good or bad, I mean, our ideal director, he's talked about some great things that are happening. Why wouldn't there be an article in the Pioneer about 5 of our football players making honorable mention, right? We don't see that. Now, if that's what's going to go in the newsletter, okay, I can understand some of that. But I just look at a different venue, and I'm looking at what printed meant, not what we say it is. Apparently, there's a group of people out there that just aren't getting the information as we want to describe it.
People that don't have kids in school are not going to reach out for that information, but if you put it ahead of them, they're going to look at it.
Yeah, I would say part of our thought pattern around that is pretty much everything that's kind of been shared in terms of reader readership, subscribership, paid versus non-paid, depending on what that is. And certainly there are some other areas that we could definitely look into, but I think our primary thought pattern around the rationale was specifically to target every household within our community, controlling those things that go. And so what you have in front of you essentially is kind of an example. It's not a final draft, but it's kind of what we're thinking generally, and some of the things that were shared. You know, students that received awards, you know, athletic awards and so forth. Those are all things that we would include in the newsletter, as well as, you know, some of our report card data or decisions that are being made, things like that. So, because what we're kind of looking at, or what's being proposed essentially, is sending out a newsletter, hard copy newsletter to every household twice per year in the current moment.
So, is that less than what we used to send out? How many times did we used to send it out?
Apparently last time it used to be, the most recent time period, it was twice per year. Is that correct?
We used to do 4.
Used to do 4, but recently
I feel
it was
like,
twice.
so the question is, and I'm not 100% sure on this number, but I'm pretty sure when we were talking about budget reductions, the cost of printing it was like $10,000.
Right.
Was that when we printed it 4 times, or is that just 2? So then my question is how did we get that cost to half that?
It's $5,000 per newsletter.
Right,
Oh,
this is recent time.
Still
Per
$10,000.
newsletter. So it's still $10,000.
Yeah, right.
So
So what we're estimating, is what we're estimating.
yes, but have we explored other printing options? Is it the printing that's the cost that much, or is it the mailing that's costing that much? The mailing is, you don't have any control over how much it costs to mail, right? But is there other avenues we can take to print other than maybe going with this company? That seems like still a lot of money.
Probably could do
For
black,
I thought it was $5,000 for both, so,
you could do black and white, I think some of the costs that.
or do some pages in black, and more of it in black and white than all of it, I don't know. We printed in-house, I don't know what our new, if we have anything in the tech area that can print anything, I don't know, that just seems like, I would like to work on that price, I guess. Or explore different companies, I don't know, I know we have a relationship with them, but that doesn't mean that they're cheaper. I don't know, just a thought.
One thing that Leader does is they will do the mailings and take it around to all the post offices so you can take advantage of the lower cost EDDM.
And maybe that, and that's what I don't know, that's what I just.
I guess the other way it could be done is, you know, and certainly take staff time, is get somebody else to print it, but then we would have to deliver them to all the different zip codes. And I don't know if other companies do that or not. I know that's a service that Leader provides, and that's one of the reasons we want to.
Gotcha.
So we have to break it down a little bit.
Or see if there's other companies that do the same thing. Or if it's a significant cost savings with a different company, I'm sure twice a year we can find a staff member that can deliver those. It's not like we're doing this once a week or even once a month, if we're talking twice, like it's 2 days.
Right.
So, thoughts?
Okay, anything else under, otherwise we'll move on to new business, approved travel attendance, 2026 academic decathlon regionals. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
That was Brittany. Motion by Jeff, second by Brittany. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Discuss approved printing costs district newsletter. I guess at this point, maybe this needs to be tabled for next month and come back with some other options. Harold wants to pleasure.
What do you want to get out?
Well, the plan would be to send it out probably between now and, you know, the new year. And then have another one go out probably March, somewhere in that ballpark was the original intention. But maybe if it's the will of the group to look for other options, maybe we just do one. Or maybe we don't do anything.
I think I'd like to see before feeling comfortable with approving, if that's the most affordable option for a newsletter. My personal, I think the newsletter is important. I think sending it out is important. I think it feels like there's a want to be sure that that's the most affordable option. So even if it's seeing the breakdown of what that 5,000 per newsletter is, what's mailing of it, what's printing of it, and then maybe a couple other, whether it's what does it cost if Staples printed it and we sent it and mailed it. So I think it doesn't have to be, 100 different options, but if we had, I think we would trust if you came with us with, 3-4 different ways of looking at it, whether it was feasible or not for us to bring to the internal meet, if we could see, I think, the breakdown of some of those costs, so we could feel comfortable with, yes, we're gonna do it, and this is the most affordable option, and we've given it very thoughtful consideration as to what that affordable option is. I would like to see that happen next meeting.
I would agree with that.
Will there be time to, if we wait till next meeting, will there be time to get it out? Or sometime in January or how?
I suppose that just depends on what that option ultimately would be.
I mean, you could have the newsletter ready to go, right? You would do that in-house of designing it, putting it together. Then it would just be the fact of sending it to whatever printer.
Right, I would
How
say.
long, what their turnaround
Correct.
is.
That's right.
There is a proposed joint personnel and finance committee meeting potentially scheduled for early December. Is this something that we would want the finance committee to take a peek at, and do maybe the brunt of the discussion and looking through those price options, and then feel like we could have it ready for a vote at the regular meeting in December? Is that something, I don't know what the thoughts are on the moving it to committee versus full discussion board.
December 15th, so we could get a little leeway.
Like I said, depends on turnaround.
I would say that time period probably we'd have to plan out a little further, just given the holidays, that kind of thing.
I wonder maybe for this year, if we just do one, since we're starting kind of mid-year, that we do, half the cost of whatever we are doing, since we can maybe just do one mailing this year, and then, since it's a new thing, and then next year we would continue with twice. I just feel like if we do one now and one in a couple of months, that feels like a little redundant perhaps, and maybe one mid-semester and then mid-semester again.
Well, do we change the time frame and do it end of the semester and then end of the school year?
Sure. Or we could
Maybe that gives you the end of January to send it out, and then do another one at the end of May. It'll seem like logical-ish times to, hey, we're wrapping up the first semester, here's all the cool things we've done and what's going on. We're
Yes.
wrapping up the year, here's all the cool things we've done. I don't know. Other thoughts?
Yeah.
I would agree that doing it ad hoc way to see what it is. But I'm still gonna make it public that the newsletter is very important, and I agree with it. But it's just a small piece of our communication plan. A newsletter twice a year is not, in my view, not generating the excitement, not generating what we need for people to get informed and want to get involved with their school, in my view. So I agree it's an important piece, but there needs to be a communication plan about how we're gonna get information out about our school.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yes,
You
sir.
still
I
do
agree.
newspaper
Yeah,
articles.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all.
Good press releases,
Yes.
right.
But what are we doing about that other piece? So that's
Right.
kind of where I'm stuck on for whatever reason.
All right. So we have the motion on the agenda. We can amend the motion. We can table this. Or we can approve this as presented. What's the pleasure of the board?
There are no names, I mean, we're not we're not approving any one company doing this, we're basically approving an estimated cost for the newsletter. If we approve this as it is presented, so there's something in the record, and then allow administration to research other options, and, you know, perhaps, was mentioned at the joint personnel and finance, have a little further discussion, and maybe still attempt to get 2 of them done this year, being it trying to have information regarding potential referendum. If that would be the only reason I would see it.
If we keep
More
it,
is better than less.
if we keep it the way it is, I'm gonna vote no. Just gonna say until we get, I think we need to get more information, to make that decision. Just telling you my own personal.
I would recommend tabling so that the motion doesn't fail, because if the motion fails,
Like, I'm not
Doesn't it
completely,
make it
I'm
harder
not
to bring it
completely
back to the
against it,
table?
I'm not happy with the way it is right now.
Are we planning to use this newsletter as a method to communicate about referendum information? Or will there be other items that are mailed out regarding that?
We're gonna need more than one newsletter.
Right, so I don't know that this is, if this isn't an avenue for that, we have less of a time crunch.
True, I guess, that we're not, I'm not sure,
And
my assumption was.
Yeah, I mean, I
that
think the plan was-
information in it as.
Yeah, the plan would be to include this as part of that strategy later on. Now, in terms of additional print materials and things, obviously there's costs that are associated with that. And all of that would have to sort of be fleshed out as we look towards a potential referendum and have a strategy around that communication.
I guess how much redundancy would be in this newsletter and what we would be sending out in referendum information.
Well, the newsletter should be about cheering up the school and bragging up what we're doing in the school. These are the things that are happening right now. These are upcoming events. If people want to see dates in writing of when the concerts are, or when, you know, like graduation's gonna be, and things like that. It's not sole purpose, isn't, I don't think, the reference. I mean, part of it, but messages from the
Correct.
administrative people and stuff like that. Messages from teachers of, hey, we got the academic decathlon going on, this is how we did. Or stuff like that. Stuff that's probably already being posted on Facebook, but people, not everybody follows Facebook or sees that, so.
Yes, it would be all the things that you outlined, correct.
So what's the pleasure?
Table and bring it back to the finance and personnel committee for a couple recommendations that we should vote on.
I agree. I think table. Right. Yeah, but they.
So we will table this until next board meeting and then bring back more information for us.
Sounds good, thank you.
We can add that to future agenda items. Along with the auditor's report management letter for period ending June 30th, 2025, and available open enrollment spaces 2026-2027. Advanced meeting dates, December 8th, joint personnel finance committee meeting, 5:30, December 15th, finance committee meeting at 5:45, and regular board meeting at 6:30 p.m. Please note the earlier date due to the holidays, December 22nd through January 2nd, no school winter break. And January 21st through 23rd is the state education convention on June.
Dave, for those who are a part of joint personnel and finance with the December 8th proposed meeting time, is anyone against moving that from 5:30 to 6?
faster is better, the later the better.
Me as well, 6 would be better for me. I've got another meeting prior to that.
Okay. 6, the plan.
Yeah, I think
Six o'clock
that-
works.
Yeah, you're on person.
That's Monday,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, up next is the contemplated call for a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph C. To consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility in Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent F, to consider financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary considerations, specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where parent B applies, which if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data are involved in such problems or investigations, specifically for the purpose of discussing, considering, and taking action if appropriate regarding an administrator contract and support staff employment. Is there a motion to move into closed session?
Second.
Motion by Bruce, second